If you grew up around the time that I did, your wrestling game collection was probably awesome. SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, WWF No Mercy. Come on, we all had WCW Nitro or Thunder in there too. They couldn't all be gold. But the backstage assaults and the hardcore revolutions were easily washed away by the Here Comes the Pains and the WrestleMania 19s. Man, we really had it made, didn't we? Everybody knows about these games. Everybody knows the Kings of the Ring, right? Well, not everybody. There was one game hidden in the shadows like Sting up in the rafters that was right there with the absolute greats. It was so hard to explain to your friends that, in some ways, this wasn't as good as this. On today's episode of Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series, we're diving deep into Fire Pro Returns. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts, and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. Before we get too deep into Fire Pro Returns, it's probably important to take a look at the Fire Pro Wrestling series in general. The franchise dates all the way back to the 80s, with Fire Pro Wrestling Combination Tag originally releasing on the PC Engine. If you're already like, whoa, I've never heard of or barely heard of Fire Pro, and it's been around for 35 years? Yes. To be fair though, it wasn't until 2001 that we got one of these games released in North America. Overseas, there was Super Fire Pro Wrestling on the Super Famicom in 1991, and tons of other sequels to come after, but yeah, the game simply titled Fire Pro Wrestling for the Game Boy Advance was the first in the series to get a US release. Did I own it? Nope! I had never even heard of it until years later. The developer behind these games was Human Entertainment, who, outside of Fire Pro, developed many titles, one of which was Stadium Events on the NES. You know Stadium Events, right? One of the rarest and most valuable video games of all time? Yeah, that Stadium Events. In 1997, Clock Tower would hit the United States. This series was indeed developed by Human Entertainment. So maybe you're not a Fire Pro fan, but if you're into the retro game scene or survival horror, you're probably aware of Fire Pro's original developer, at the very least. Human Entertainment would unfortunately file for bankruptcy in 2000, with a new developer, Spike, being one of the many teams to rise from those ashes. In 2012, Spike would merge with Chunsoft, forming Spike Chunsoft, who are still in business, releasing highly acclaimed games to this day. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, the spiritual successor to the Budokai Tenkaichi series, is scheduled for release later this year. That's a quick history of the series, and by quick I mean a super fast, totally not comprehensive overview in any way. Look, there are like 20 of these fucking games, and that is not an exaggeration in the slightest. This is what Fire Pro Wrestling Returns looks like when you first boot it up. We've got generic rings based on very well-known real-life organizations. View Japan is obviously our stand-in for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Olive Japan takes the place of All Japan Pro Wrestling. Neo 1 represents 01. Switch gears into mixed martial arts and wouldn't you know it, the Blade Ring looks a hell of a lot like the Pride Ring, doesn't it? But maybe you like your MMA in a cage. What does this remind you of? As far as the wrestlers are concerned, it's the same deal. Western wrestling fans will instantly notice that Raven Gush looks a lot like Kevin Nash. Crazy Rose is a dead ringer for Scott Hall, huh? Anything you've ever wanted to put together in the world of professional wrestling or mixed martial arts, there's a damn good chance Fire Pro Returns will allow you to pull it off. And let's make this distinction and adjustment right now. Nobody calls it Fire Pro Wrestling Returns, okay? It's Fire Pro Returns. That's what we used to call it on the message boards, and that's what I'm gonna call it from here on out. You OG fans have probably been like, he's not a real fan, he's not even using the right name. I know, but I have to present this for everyone, not just the hardcore, alright? And I hear you out there, those of you going, this is it? This is the game you're putting up there with the best of the best? This is hard to get across here in 2024, but for its time, in 2005, Fire Pro Returns was the ultimate in customization. The ultimate. And it wasn't even close. So I've shown you what the game looks like when you first pop it into your PlayStation 2, but that's not how anybody really played the game. Customization was king. This is how we played Fire Pro Returns. Again, I realize it's 2024 now. The WWE 2K games have community creations. You can import entire shows and arenas and whatnot into your game. But in 2005, this was incredible. To have WCW, ECW, WWE, TNA, ROH, New Japan, UFC, Pride, modern, and retro wrestlers and fighters all in one package, this was out of control. Not just the wrestlers, but the logos. Seeing WCW branding in a non-WCW game, this wasn't going on anywhere else. And if you're questioning how so many wrestlers can be in one game, Fire Pro Returns features over 300 Create a Wrestler slots. Anybody you can think of, you can get them in the game with the ability to sort them however you like. Going pixel by pixel to craft something like the 2000 Nitro logo for your ring. Goodness gracious, the freedom, Dan Dans. Want to create your own championship belts? Go for it. Several of these designs look fairly familiar, don't they? Gotta love it. Now to be clear, I didn't create literally anything you're looking at. And this was fairly common. What you do was go online, find a pre-packaged save file, download it, drop it onto a USB thumb drive, and you know what? We'll finish this part later. The gameplay itself is timing based. We're not using circle and the D-pad to initiate a grapple like you would in the SmackDown series. Here in Fire Pro, you simply walk into your opponent. When the distance is closed, the grapple initiates itself. Executing a maneuver is timing based. The second the lockup connects, you want to press your buttons. Not a moment before, not a moment after. One of the absolute greatest elements of the Fire Pro package is the realistic wrestling matches. Building a properly paced match is an art form in the real world, and it's a guideline you have to follow in the game. The square button houses your startup moves. Your next level maneuvers are tied to X, with the power moves connected to circle. If you get in the ring and go for a power move immediately, you will be reversed, so be wary of getting overly excited. Now might be the time to address the graphics. I know some of you are not listening to a word I'm saying because of the way the game Look, some of you cannot get beyond the fact that the game is 2D. Hear me out. Give it a chance. No, this doesn't look anything like the games we have today. It doesn't even look like the other wrestling games of its era. Fire Pro Returns hit store shelves in Japan in 2005. This was the era of SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, Day of Reckoning 2. I get it. That's okay. Graphics aren't everything. Gameplay is king. It always has been, and it always will be, and Fire Pro Returns has the fucking gameplay, alright? The parameters regarding the logic of each character are fully customizable, and if you find a good creator out there who really knows what they're doing, you're gonna wind up with an Undertaker who wrestles exactly the way he does in real life. And that goes for everybody. From Hulk Hogan to the Hardy Boys to Sabu. Yes, that's a barbed wire ring. Hold on. I'm still talking about the graphics. The gameplay is presented in 2D at an isometric angle. This might look disorienting at first, but I assure you, it's not. Walk around this ring for 10 seconds and it's all you need to settle in. The fans in the crowd are 3D, which is a strange choice, but it doesn't matter. The entrances. Holy hell, look at these stages. Again, is it a little jarring to see these 2D sprites walking out onto a pre-rendered 3D stage? Sure, a little bit, but this is part of the charm, I guess. The variety of the stages is nice, as are the arenas we wrestle in. Anything from a high school gym to a medium-sized sportsplex, all the way to a stadium-sized setting, it's all here. ECW never ran the Houston Astrodome, right? They played bingo halls into generally smaller houses. If you want to keep that feel alive, go for it. Not every arena allows for entrances, only a few of them do, as a matter of fact, and that sucks. I would have appreciated walking underneath the basketball hoop in the school gym, you know? One last thing graphically, and this plays into a special game mode as well. Matchmaker is Fire Pro's version of GM mode, in a way. Take control of the company of your choice, schedule an event at whichever building you desire, and book your card. The cutscenes here are hand-drawn, and they're really cool. Some of them are kind of creepy, too, which I don't think Spike Chunsoft did on purpose, but it is what it is. Now, we had a little peek at that barbed wire ring earlier. Let me go ahead and shine a light on several of the match types. Exploding barbed wire death matches. Holy fucking shit. I had never seen anything like this in a wrestling game before. Those black boxes on the outside of the ring house devastating explosives. And when the designated time limit is reached, a landmine massacre match is also on the docket. Again, light tubes attached to wooden boards in the corners. Light tubes the wrestlers can remove and swing as individual weapons. Get the fuck out of here. Get tossed over the top rope and you do not want to fall out of this ring. Trust me. Steel cage matches are large and in charge as well. I've already touched on the MMA fights, which can be contested inside of the UFC style cage or in a ring. We have kickboxing rules as well, full-on battle royals. We can run tournaments. Man, Fire Pro Returns had it all. And by had it all, I mean Fire Pro Returns had the match types that I just mentioned. Look, I love table matches. We don't have tables here. I'm a big ladder match guy. We don't have ladders here. This was a Japanese wrestling game made by a Japanese developer for a Japanese audience. So Hell in a Cell, Elimination Chamber, none of those WWE owned and copyrighted match types are here. Not even in a generic sense. It would be nice to have them, but we don't. Here's an interesting aspect of Fire Pro Returns, and this is actually what drew me to the game in the first place. Look, playing the game is fantastic, obviously, but simulating is where it was really at. Booking the match of your dreams and sitting back to see how it plays out, I cannot begin to express how much time I spent doing this. You may have noticed how many matches have CP versus CP listed at the bottom. That's there because I have simulated a good deal of the gameplay you've seen here today. The logic system and offensive and defensive parameters I mentioned earlier make for unbelievable simulations. This was something you just couldn't get anywhere else. Throw The Rock versus Undertaker into a SmackDown game at the time, it wasn't gonna be like this. I actually find the built-in matchmaker mode to be uninteresting due to the constraints and limitations included. We didn't need matchmaker mode. The real matchmaker mode was just using your imagination. Look, I'm gonna get crazy here. What you're looking at is a very real piece of history. This notebook dates all the way back to 2006. These are actual matches I was running nearly 20 years ago. And not only was I simulating these matches, I had an entire rubric complete with point values for each and every possible outcome. At the end of an in-game month, I would add up all of the results and produce a pound-for-pound rankings list. Win-loss records were tracked, number one contenders were often determined in battle royals. I was insane with this shit. If you frequent this channel, you might be coming to the same exact conclusion I did while writing this script. This notebook with these match results and these championship rankings and the rules and regulations, this is basically GM Showdown, nearly 20 years before that show existed. And if you're new here, GM Showdown is a weekly series that has run for 28 episodes across 2 seasons on this channel, where I ran a promotion called 616 Shockwave, and my buddy No Taxes Nigel Bravo ran Stone Crow Combustion. Points were awarded for matches, win-loss records were tracked, we had our own champions, all of it. The matches are all simulated, with no actual playing of the game taking place. Granted, we did use the 2017 game Fire Pro Wrestling World for GM Showdown, but yeah, the seeds of GM Showdown's existence began with Fire Pro Returns, in my bedroom, in 2006. I didn't even know Nigel then. This YouTube channel didn't even exist yet, but this, right here, this is history. Wow. The connections run even deeper, actually. The promotion I created in my Fire Pro Returns headcanon was called Sweet Pandemonium Wrestling, or SPW for short. I took some of my favorite wrestlers and put them on my roster and used them in the positions that I thought they should have in real life. Gregory Helms versus CM Punk for the SPW Championship? Hell yeah, man. Sweet Pandemonium Wrestling was awesome. Now fast forward to January 3rd, 2024. The third pay-per-view event of GM Showdown Season 2. What was that called? Sweet Pandemonium.
Sweet Pandemonium.
Next week it's our third pay-per-view, Sweet Pandemonium. What you're looking at now, this is yet another piece of history. Have you ever seen a PS2 that does this? This is a flip top. I bought these pieces on eBay and modded my PlayStation 2. Poorly. I kind of fucked it up actually, but it did work. Why did I do this to my PS2? Well, I wanted to play Fire Pro Returns, a game which was only released in Japan. Modifying my PS2 allowed me to swap the disc using Swap Magic, which is this right here, and this allowed the laser to not be interrupted, and it would trick the console into reading a Japanese disc. I don't know. Using an Action Replay Max allowed me to take the save that I had downloaded from the internet and put it directly onto my PlayStation 2. This version of the game was entirely Japanese, meaning I couldn't even read the menus. Downloading a 300 plus page guide and printing it out, mind you, was an absolute must. That guide is the one piece of the puzzle I no longer have in hand, but That's alright. Plus, I found it right here on the internet. So what you're looking at is the actual guide that I had printed out and shoved into a binder. But this is the least interesting part anyway. You know what's really funny? After going through all of this trouble of modifying my console, buying swap magic discs, printing out this gigantic guide, Fire Pro Returns would receive a North American release less than 1 year later. Hilarious. It's one of the dumbest stories of my entire gaming life, but it's true. And not only did it get a physical release, but the game would eventually be listed on the PlayStation Network for just $9.99. It's still available to this day, as a matter of fact. All of the footage you've seen today was captured from this version, directly off of PlayStation 3. So no disc, Japanese or otherwise, were necessary for today's video. Fire Pro Returns reviewed very well, with critics lauding its commitment to the series' roots, especially in a landscape full of beautiful 3D grapplers. Sales-wise, I have no fucking idea how it performed, but I would like to think that it sold 10 million copies. It didn't, but I'd like to think that it did. But the thing is, the memories that I hold near and dear have nothing to do with reviews. They have nothing to do with sales figures. Honestly, the game could have gotten a 2 out of 10 and sold 8 copies. It made no difference to me. This notebook, this save file, this is all I ever needed. If you've never given Fire Pro a shot, I implore you to do so. 2017's Fire Pro Wrestling World is available on PC and PlayStation. Just do not, under any circumstances, confuse it with the 2012 Fire Pro Wrestling on the Xbox 360. We don't talk about that one. Ever. I know this isn't the most popular wrestling video game franchise. I know many of you watching have never and will never be interested in giving it a chance. That's okay. All I know is that somehow, some way, someday, I hope to see Fire Pro Wrestling return again. Oh, there it is, Dan Dans. Thank you for joining me for this, my Triangle X Squared Circle retrospective of Fire Pro Returns. Don't miss Triangle X Squared Circle next time when we go deep on WWE's SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. Patreon.com/616entertainment is where you can go to support me, to support the channel. Look, I write these videos, I shoot these videos, I edit these videos, I upload these videos, everything. It's all me. I'm a one-man crew, and I would really appreciate having you in my corner. Signing up at any level grants you access to the entire exclusive season of Let's Play Friday, the upcoming Monday Night Blitz 3, and fuck it, I'll announce it right now. GM Showdown Season 3 will be exclusive to patreon.com/616entertainment. Sign up now at any level you choose, and we'll see you there. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I love ya, and I'll see you soon.